And we have Marcia Kramer here as well, and a guest whom you've invited and interviewed before. He's just pulled up the chair. This is live TV.
How are you? Good to see you.
I'm good. How are you? Thank you
Great,
so much for being here. We're going to talk about political ramifications here.
I saw the horses out in the street already with the police officers.
Well, they say all, 35,000, they're going to have them in uniform as well as the mounted patrol. Reaction?
Kind of shocked today, actually. No one expected it today. It was sort of like last week, the Trump team sort of put it out there. He put it out there, of course, but he ran the whole table of saying, oh, Tuesday, and then it fell off. Then they're taking a month off. It Passover and Easter coming up.
But I think the real question, Obi, is what are the effects on the presidential campaign that he's in the middle of? I know that he raised an awful lot of money by putting out all these tweets, over $1.5 million, but this is uncharted territory. How are his opponents going to react to this indictment?
It's historic in which opponents we're talking about. Democratic primary, Republican primary, or Democrat Joe Biden in the general.
But let's start with the Republican primary. How are his opponents in the primary going to deal with this? Are they going to ignore the issue, or are they going to go after him now?
No, I don't see them going after him right now at all, because one of the things you have in any debate or any kind of situation like this, you want to get the opponent's voters to come to you. If you go after him right away and you try to cut off the head, his voters will either not show up on election day for you or go somewhere else. So you need them. Talking
about those who support him, those who said they're running for president, which I think is only Mr. Trump, correct? Who've officially...
No, there's a number of people who have...
Officially. Okay. Okay. So what about for them and what they...
The challenge they have is staying relevant during some of this periods of time. They're not going to get any news the next couple of days. Last week, they didn't get any news. And everyone knows who Donald Trump is. They know what to expect. The problem for the newbies, so to speak, running presidentially is they're not going to get any attention. They can't get up in the polls. DeSantis is already falling down in the polls as of this week. So if their numbers are going down and they don't get any coverage, what are they going to do for donors, and how do they stay relevant? They'll make comments, but they will not go after them. The talking points right now that are out there in Donald Trump's statement are all about Bragg and George Soros appointed DA.
Yeah, but here's the question. You talk about people who are going to donate to a campaign. Could it very well be that donors are going to say, hey, we don't want to give money to somebody who's indicted and could be actually convicted of a crime, so maybe they do start to contribute to other candidates? I
think right now you're going to see people that are saying, okay, he's a martyr, and they're going to give him all the money. At this point, those that are the low dollar donors, the bigger donors sitting up on the sidelines right now.
Wait a minute. He only has, his base is about 30 to 40%. What about the other people, the people who aren't his base?
Remember, the whole number, the 50% don't all donate. So you got to bring that down a bit. It's the donors that we're talking about in that question. And what they're really going to do is, to your point, will they go somewhere else? They're going to wait this out a little bit, because once they write a check somewhere else, it's done. Not the money's gone, but your name's in print. You're on that list of supporting him, especially if you do it right away, the week after, and the date's on there for your donation.
What about Joe Biden?
Joe Biden's going to revel in this. The Democrats have been pushing DA Bragg here for weeks now at this point. He was going to do it, then he wasn't going to do it. He pulled back, and finally they all said, hey, let's try to do it. And we heard about the pressure he had last week when he was slowing things up. So Bragg's issue is re-elect. If he's indicted now, he better convict.
What about McCarthy? Mitchell, we know he's just came back after being hurt and getting that concussion.
Out of the hospital.
Yes, and just other Republican leading lawmakers.
I think for the first week or so, depending on what the indictment says, because we don't know, there's a lot of speculation. They voted on this. When? What did they hear? What didn't they hear? Did they rely on Cohen, or is there other stuff going on?
But you know yourself that there's a schism in the Republican Party, especially the leadership in Washington. Mitch McConnell is no fan of Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is no fan of his. On the other hand, McCarthy has supported him. So how does that break out? Do they change their mind? Do they all line up behind him?
No, it's a question of when they're against him, will they come out and say things adamantly and repeatedly? Will McConnell make a statement and be done with it, and McCarthy make a statement and keep on going double down with Trump? That's going to be the real question.
But how can they avoid it? I mean, every reporter in Washington is going to be at their door.
Right?
How many times do people like me and others points? We already spoke about that. Just what I said before, what I said the other day.
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
This...
It's more of the same. A press conference is different than answering the questions. And they'll be on the record, and will they keep going? The question is, when's the indictment coming out? Is it coming out tomorrow morning? Is it coming out tonight? It's sealed. Does it get unsealed?
It gets unsealed in a court.
In the court
judge
when he shows
unseals
up.
it when he shows up.
Which you were saying earlier might not be till Sunday.
Or whenever.
Possibility.
I mean,
Or next week.
let me say this. If law enforcement people had their way, they would do it on a day when there's less people in lower Manhattan so that they have more ability to control the environment. On the other hand, you know, a lot of it is going to depend on when Mr. Trump, a former president, and has a Secret Service detail, say when he wants to come.
New York's really unique, too, don't forget. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, is that Mr. Trump's plane we're looking at? Can you all tell me?
Can't see the wing there with the gray fog.
All right, and so is there movement there around? It's hard to see. Okay. We have not seen movement there. This is the PBI, the West Palm Beach airport, and that is the former president's airplane. It also just makes you think, what are you thinking there about the timing? And
Do you think he surrenders tomorrow? Is that what you're thinking?
He wants
it's
to
a bigger
control the
news day.
It certainly is a bigger news.
He wants to control the news. He goes in on Friday, he's got the whole weekend, he controls it. Instead of speculation, he wants that indictment unsealed. He gains nothing by waiting a week of keeping it sealed. Unseal it and continue the fight.
So the fight, what we're hearing from his attorneys, which isn't much, we know that he knows.
Acknowledged it, right?
Yes, that he's acknowledged it. What do you think as far as his use of social media? And we know he held something in Waco last week. I mean,
his own worst enemy could be the phone. We've all seen that before. We've seen it last week. And when he goes on a riff, it's a very different thing than a prepared speech. He's been doing a lot of canned stuff. He's been doing short videos on issues and things that has been getting different kind of coverage, and that's been the way he's doing his outreach. But this is all different. It's an all new game now. You're talking international story.
But here's the real question, Obi. If he is indicted and the indictment stands, will have to be tried here in Manhattan, right, at least for the moment. So what advice, if you were a consultant or his lawyer, would you give him about the kinds of things he puts on social media that could actually influence the potential jury pool here?
There's talk among lawyers today about saying, the other day, when he put the baseball bat picture on there, whether that would be a crime in itself.
yes.
And there was a question about that. If he was in Manhattan, would he have been charged with that at that point? It was taken down, so who knows what would have happened. But he's got to stay away from that kind of stuff from a legal standpoint. It won't happen. He's been involved in so many lawsuits on a civil basis and been told to stay off that kind of stuff. He hasn't stopped him before.
So you think he's going to continue to tweet and
Well, we have, in fact, here's what we have from Mr. Trump. This is political persecution and election interference at the highest level in history. So our movement and our party, united and strong, will first defeat Alvin Bragg, and then we will defeat Joe Biden. This from former President Donald Trump, putting the name in there, Alvin Bragg, the district attorney. Yeah, go ahead. Comment on it.
He talks about George Soros. He talks about Bragg. He talks about the DA's office. The spin I heard on the way over on Twitter, people they're talking DA's office is out of touch and they're disorganized.
So what's he trying to accomplish by doing this? What is he trying to accomplish with that statement? Is he trying to energize his base? Is he trying to get his supporters here in New York?
He wants to. He wants them to come to New York. He won't say it at this point, hopefully, but he's going to want them to come to New York and rally out in front of Trump Tower. I mean, he's on the tarmac, possibly flying to New York. If you're him right now and you have this indictment, you're getting the plane. You're going wheels up. You're getting here as quick as you can and say, "Here I am, DA. I'm not flying here tomorrow. I'm here tonight."
So are you walking into Trump Tower through the front door instead of the back door that he used when he was president?
You may go in the side door for security purposes and then come out and greet your supporters if it got to that point. He's also got the interior too. He's got the whole lobby area there.
January 6th, there has been concern, obviously, which we're talking when we talk about, 30,000 plus NYPD officers as well as counterterrorism. It just goes on and on. How do you see that now that the former president has been indicted?
The Secret Service is very different now. You've got a former president, so you've got a smaller detail. But now you've got him in the spotlight. It's a very different scenario. He's back at his home turf. And in New York City, the NYPD and Secret Service, there's always that, not an argument by any means, but NYPD really does quite a bit more in New York than Secret Service lets them do anywhere else in Boston or Chicago or LA, just because of what they do here. Historically, that's been something that's been going on.
If our viewers are just joining us here on our streaming channel, CBS News New York, thank you. We are covering breaking news, the indictment by a New York County grand jury indicting the former President Donald Trump. It is unclear, because it is sealed, what exactly the charges are, but there's so much to talk about. This is a live look outside the courthouse building. We see already a couple of officers, but my understanding is they've been there during this entire process.
Interesting too. Alan Weiselberg is in jail. He's under their custody right now. I'm not sure if located in downtown or not. There was talk about whether or not he was going to prepare and appear before the grand jury as well.
Well, I think that the unknown in this case is, whether they had testimony from Alan Weiselberg on this case, because remember, what we know about the case is it's a financial case where checks were prepared, and the question they would ask him is, in your role as the chief financial officer of the Trump organization, did you help prepare these checks, and who asked you to prepare them?
And he has a different level of honesty he's got to go by now. He's not just under oath in front of federal, or in this case, state authorities. He's also in their custody, and there's all kinds of rules about the agreement that he's cut and what he can do. He's got to be totally forthcoming. There can't be.
But also, we should point out.
I got to go after this, Alice.
Also, we should point out that he could take the Fifth Amendment when he goes into the grand jury.
He could. I'm not sure what that does when he's got a hall pass, so to speak, when they're giving him immunity already and he's cut the deal.